Hello everyone and welcome back to the second part of our simple task system. Let's go ahead and open up Visual Studios. So in the first video we went ahead and created this objective class. So we're going to go ahead and continue where we left off and create the task class. Every task is going to have a name, a description, and then a bool to determine whether or not it is complete, and then a list of objectives. Objectives. Okay. And then we're going to have getters and setters for name and description, and just a getter for is complete. Name and set I actually changed my mind. The is complete will also have a getter and setter, but it's going to be private setter. Oops. Okay, set that to a bool and set this to private. Okay, and then we're going to need let's see, 4 constructors. So public task, and one with a name, one with a description, and whether or not it's active. So then we'll go ahead and do string name, and string description. And then lastly, we're going to say whether or not it's active. So bool is active. Okay. Sorry, name equals name. Description equals description. Is complete equals complete. Or sorry, equals false. Objectives equals new, list of objectives, and then down below we're going to set active to is active, and then we're going to go ahead and create that method. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and create a way to add objective. It's going to take an objective, and it's going to determine whether or not the objective already exists in the list. So if objectives.contains obj, and then we're going to say if it does not contain by putting the exclamation mark in front of that statement. We're going to say obj.task equals this. So this is where we set the parent task of the objective. So we're saying that the task that this objective belongs to is this. And then we're going to say objectives.add obj. Okay, that is the add objectives method. We're going to give that a void. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Okay, so then set this set active method to public. And we're going to say that if is active for each let's see, objective obj in objectives. I'm going to copy that for each method because I'm going to use it, or for each loop because I'm going to use it a couple times. Okay, so here we're going to say obj add listeners, else, and go ahead and paste that for each loop. obj.remove listeners. Alright, so one might argue that it might be equally fast or better to code a for each loop with the if-else statement inside of that. That is actually going to be false. Imagine a situation where you have 100 objectives. 100 times it's going to check whether or not the is active bool here is set to true or not, as opposed to checking it once and then running through a for each loop. It's going to check 100 times whether or not it's active, and then determine what method to call. So it should be honestly faster to do the for each loop inside of the if statement and the for each loop inside of the else statement. Even though it doesn't look as clean, it should be faster as far as processing goes. Okay, so then there's two more methods we need. One's going to be called public void update, and the other one, which we're going to fill out first, is called it's going to return a bool, and it's called check complete. Okay, and that can actually be private, my bad. Okay, and we're going to return true lastly, like if everything turns out well, return true. But first we're going to check if objectives equals null or objectives.count equals 0 and return true in that situation. Okay, so we're going to try to find a situation that we can return false. And we can actually paste that for each loop above. So if one of the objectives is false, then the completion of this task is false. How we would code that is we would say if not obj.isComplete, return false. So if a single objective is not complete, return false. And that's going to cancel out of the for each loop and cancel out of the method altogether, so it's never going to hit this return true down below. Otherwise, if you get all the way through the for each loop, meaning you got all the way through the objectives, then we return true. Okay, so that's the check complete. And now for the public void update, what we're going to do is update the isComplete variable. So to do that, we're going to say if check complete. So if we are in fact complete, we're going to say isComplete equals true, and we're going to set active to false because we don't. So let's go ahead and talk about the set active method real quick on what it actually does. So if it is active, it's going to loop through every single objective and add the listeners. The listeners are the events that are taking place at the objective level. So every objective is going to be specific to listening to a single event. And in this situation that the event occurs, the objective is going to set itself to complete if it meets the defined rules of the objective. And we'll talk about that more in the next video. But it's when the task is active that the objectives start listening for the events, and when it's inactive, the objectives stop listening to everything. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and you know what? Actually, let me go ahead and change something. Where this bool is here, let's copy and create another bool. And we're going to call it isActive. This was originally set up in the sorry, give me just a sec. And then, okay. So this was originally how it was set up within the blog post, but I decided to change it, but now I'm going to go ahead and change it back. So let's go ahead and create a public getter and setter for that as well. IsActive. Okay. And then in the setActive method, we're going to say if isActive does not equal isActive, isActive equals isActive, and then we're going to put the original if-else inside of that. The reason I want to do this is because I want to be able to check the active status of the task in the task tracker later on. So there's a good reason for it. So let's just go ahead and keep that the Boolean in there. But I'll go ahead and see you in the next video where we go ahead and create some example objectives.